So I'm Kristi Bremen with Helping Services, and for October Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we've been doing interviews with some providers in our 7-county area. And I am here today with Sheriff Marx from Winneshiek County. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you, Kristi. I'm Sheriff Dan Marx. I've been in law enforcement for about 22 years. I'm in my 6th year as being sheriff. My focuses during my time as sheriff have been mental health, public trust and public relations, domestic abuse, and investigations. Trust, I want to go back to that, is the #1 key to law enforcement. If the public doesn't trust us, if they don't know that we'll be there for them in their time of need, that we'll follow through for them, that we'll believe them, and that we'll give it 100% to bring their case to justice, then we can't build from there. We've got to have that foundation of trust, and that is the single biggest platform we can use to build off from everything else from there. Like I said, whether it be mental health, whether it be a domestic abuse situation, whether it be an investigation of any type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we definitely have a trust thing with the Sheriff's Department too. I mean, we work great with you guys. I think you guys have always been awesome when it comes to domestic violence. And if anything does come up, I always feel comfortable being able to call.
Absolutely. We've been able to establish a great relationship with advocates, Helping Service and Domestic Abuse Resource Center, and it's helped us immensely through our investigations. And I know we're going to get into that here in a minute,
Yep.
So I'll let you
so here's that question.
into that.
In your opinion, what do you think are the benefits of getting a advocate involved?
I think it allows us to focus on the investigation, which is ultimately our primary role, is to find out what happened and bring the appropriate people to justice and bring survivors a chance at some closure. With having an advocate involved, it allows that survivor to have somebody to go to for the many questions they're going to have. The average person, this isn't something that they deal with on a regular basis. This is something that's intimidating. There's a lot of emotions involved, and the advocates can help them through just the logistics of things, from what can they expect in court, what questions might they have that they can maybe answer on the front side. What about finances? What about housing? What about staying away from their abuser? How are they going to be protected from them? We can get no contact orders, and we can do our investigation, and we can do the things on our side, but it still doesn't provide that one-on-one contact and that one-on-one resource that the advocates provide the survivors. And it's not that we can't provide some of those services, but they take us away from being able to do what our primary focus is. It allows us, what I'm trying to say, it allows us to focus on the situation at hand.
Right. And we get a lot of compliments to give to you guys from survivors that have had really great experiences too.
Well, I know our cases have been a lot more successful since we many years ago established the working relationship with you specifically, and advocates at the Domestic Abuse Resource Center, and other types of crimes as well. And it's been a huge success.
Great.
I would encourage, even if somebody isn't in a case, maybe if they're just in a situation that hasn't led to a criminal case, or maybe they're in or if they are in a criminal case, I would highly encourage survivors and victims to seek out an advocate, allow us to help them get an advocate. And I've heard very few people, really nobody, that's ever said, I wished I wouldn't have got an advocate involved. I've heard many times the other way from both law enforcement and survivors, that had this case had an advocate involved, it would have gone much smoother.
Right. Kind of brings us to the next question. What would you say is the most important message that someone who is experiencing domestic violence should know?
That there's help available. That even when it seems like there is no way out, even when it seems that there's too much at stake, We understand the unique circumstances of a domestic abuse situation. We understand that there's very few other crimes or other circumstances that a survivor or a victim is going home and living with the perpetrator. That is very unique from any other situation that we deal with. We understand that there's a reputation of a family reputation at stake. We understand the finances and the financial aspect of it. We understand that there's oftentimes children involved, families involved that extend beyond just the relationship between the survivor and the abuser. We understand all those things. We're very aware of those situations that make everything more difficult than lack of a better way of saying it, than in your average crime. Mm-hmm. And that's why it is so important to seek out that advocacy and to seek out us early on to let us try to bring the situation to some closure and something that is going to be sustainable going forward. A lot of people feel there's no way out. I just have to learn to live with it because of all the factors I just outlined. And the biggest thing I would say to them is, we get it.
Great. If you could provide one vital message to somebody in the community who is trying to help a survivor, what would it be?
Don't give up on them. Believe them and assist them with finding the resources that will bring closure to a situation. What are those resources? Advocacy, law enforcement, and a trusted network of confidants that person can talk to, and maybe that's them. If they're the one that's aware of the situation, that very possibly might be them. I would tell them to step up to the plate and believe them, and don't give up on them, and understand that it may take some time. Kristi, you would certainly know the stats on this better than me, but last I knew, it takes someone 7 times reporting a situation before they follow through. And that's important to remember those numbers, and it's important to not get frustrated with them if they don't follow through, because there are some very major circumstances involved in this that I think if any of us put ourselves in that situation, we would feel the same way.
Right. Now, I know your job is stressful. You see a lot of stuff. And plus, just with everything going on in the world today, I'm sure that even adds to it. So what do you do to take care of yourself after the job?
Well, you're exactly right, Kristi, especially with the climate surrounding law enforcement right now. Law enforcement's certainly been under attack and under the microscope in a bad way in a lot of things throughout the United States. We're seeing the burnout rate of law enforcement nationwide being higher than it's ever been. Recruitment rate for good law enforcement officers has been lower than it's ever been. We're seeing divorce rates far above the national norm among law enforcement. Suicide rates are through the roof among law enforcement. And so it is concerning. And having a way to cope with not only the stigma towards law enforcement right now, but then the things we have to deal with every day, whether it's dealing with domestic abuse situations, sexual abuse situations, bad car accidents, just basically the dysfunction of society can take its toll. And I think that's where it's important for law enforcement to know that to have a strong network outside of law enforcement. I mean, certainly the bond among law enforcement is extremely important, but I also think it's extremely important to have that bond with people that aren't in law enforcement, so you can kind of get away from it a little bit. Have a network of people that aren't work related, and then obviously that extends into family as well, a strong family network. Like I said, a lot of times this job can be very stressful on families, and it does strain a family. And like I said, that's why I suppose the divorce rates are showing that, unfortunately. Some things I do are I work out. I work out very religiously, and don't know if I work out as hard as I should, but I'm there trying. You try to eat well, try to have some hobbies outside of law enforcement, and also always to remember that this is a job, it's a calling. and we're here to do our very best, but at the end of the day, my job doesn't define me. And I would really suggest that to anyone in any occupation. Your job does not define you. Your job is not your worth. Every human being has a unique, special worth and value. And no person or occupation defines that value. And I think if people can keep that in mind, that their value and their worth is defined only by themselves and what they were put on this earth to do, I think that goes a long ways to mental stability.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Well, I do appreciate everything you guys do down there, and we all do at Helping Services. So, and I want to thank you for everything you do for survivors and victims.
Thank you, Kristi, for everything you've done and that you've provided. As a closing, I met you, I was trying to figure it out how many years ago, but I know it was many years ago, well over 10, 12 years ago now. And we had a case that we worked together and that turned out successful. And from that case, I think we were able to launch a relationship, not only with me and you, but between the greater law enforcement and other advocates that has served us very well here in Winneshiek County. And we back at you. We thank you for the work you've done for survivors and the type of relationship that you've built with law enforcement. And really, as we started off, we talked about, trust is key. And you've really built a relationship with law enforcement and survivors of trust. And I really think that's why our program here in Winneshiek County has been so successful and why we do have a great working relationship that is a connection between the advocates, the survivors, law enforcement, and prosecutors to see these cases through.
Well, thank you. And thank you for doing this interview today.
It's a maiden voyage for me. I've never quite done an interview like this. So anybody watching, I'd ask them to show a little grace and mercy on me if I tripped a little bit. So thank you so much.